Hello everyone, Yuga here. Today I want to cover the topic of resin. There are many beginner players that don't know how to use resin correctly. This includes wasting resin on random domains and the use of precious fragile resin. So I'll be covering on how to use it correctly, which includes a bit of knowledge on how to build your characters better, as well as mechanics that relates to resin. Disclaimer as usual, you should play the game the way you like, because Genshin Impact is a game after all. The advice in this video is mainly for beginners that want to invest into the game slightly more than casual players. Players have access to domains that require resin as soon as AR 16, as domains slowly unlock by raising adventure rank, especially through AR 25 to AR 35. Resin isn't a just spend it resource anymore. Domain of Forgery and Mastery, which are domains for weapon ascension materials and talent level up materials, open with selected days throughout the week, but all are available on Sunday, so make sure to plan a bit ahead or have a backup plan when the target domain is not available. To understand how to plan and use your resin correctly, you have to also understand how to build your character with basic knowledge. Basically, level up your weapon and then your character if talents are not available to be level up yet. Then, once talent leveling is allowed, talent is prioritized over weapon, with weapon being the next priority and character level being the last. However, with different characters having different playstyles, it is recommended to search up online for now to see what will be the priority for which talent should you level up first. For example, with Diluc, a Pyro Claymore character, I personally use Diluc early game as my main DPS, which means that all three skills are equally important for him to stay up with the high damage. This means that his normal attack, elemental skill, and elemental burst are all important for him. However, supportive DPS such as Xinqiu, where he is often used for enabling pyro DPS like Diluc, it is often recommended to just level up his burst only. More information about how to build characters in another video. With that being said, another power-up that becomes more and more important are artifacts. Unlike talent's weapon ascension material domains, these will be available throughout the week. I also recommend people to search up online to see what character is suitable for which artifact sets. Since most players are basically progressing through the game before AR 45, I would recommend to just farm for any artifact that have correct main stat and leave the rest till AR 45. This leaves us with weekly bosses and ley lines. Weekly bosses are one of the most important resources to farm for, as it provides not only because of the rare boss materials, but it also rewards with artifact and some prototypes which can come in handy to all new players. Thing to note, resin is half for 3 of the weekly bosses, so rather than spending 60 resin, only 30 resin is used. After the 3 have been used, other weekly bosses will require 60 resin. Also, it is important to finish them before the end of the week, or else you might regret not farming them later on in the game. Lastly, leyline require resin. Blossom of Revelation, a silver flower, gives out character experience material upon completion, with Blossom of Wealth reward Mora upon completion. Even though both of them exist, I wouldn't recommend farming them unless for quest purposes. New players don't often struggle with the lack of Mora and character EXP material anyways. TLDR, so far would be weekly bosses, character talents domain over weapon ascension material domain, then the leftover resin can be spent on artifact farming. Let's move on to a different topic, which talks about resin itself. Resin fully refill every 21 hours and 20 minutes, and they do not exceed 160 except for manual refill. This might introduce some player to some problems, such as having full resin by not farming a domain continuously, so there's something called condensed resin that will be introduced once you reach reputation level 3 in Leeway. This recipe allows you to craft 40 resin into one, which can allow your resin to be continued on cooldown without just sitting there. Condensed resin will also be counted as double reward when you are farming anything that require resin except weekly bosses, since aside from weekly, they only consume 20 per run. That being said, condensed resin right now can only have a capacity of 5, so be aware of that. The last topic I want to touch is refilling. There are 2 ways to refill your resin, one through fragile resin or transient resin, and one through primogems. If you're not a whale, do not refill with primogems, as they do not have the best price for the money, and they increase from 60 to 200 depends on the amount of refill, though the maximum amount of refill through primogems is 6 times. On the other hand, fragile resin should not be used until AR 45 due to artifact domain guarantees a 5-star artifact drop after AR 45. With how little fragile resin is given mainly through adventure rank leveling and battle pass, fragile resin is one of the most precious resources in the game. On the other hand, transient resin can be obtained through ROM depot, which can be used regularly since it will have a time limit of 7 days counting on Monday, not on the day you buy it. With resin being one of the most used resource in mid-game all the way till end-game, it is important to start develop a habit and the ability to plan ahead on how to use your resin effectively. These are the tips I came up with, my friend, so if you have any other question or tips, feel free to comment down below. If you liked the video, make sure to like it and subscribe. I'm Yuga, signing out.